The novel, The Bridges of Madison County, has become one of the publishing sensations of recent time. The book by Robert James Waller has been on the New York Times bestseller list for over 3 years and has sold roughly 9.5 million copies worldwide. Despite the book's phenomenal appeal, many critics have denounced it. Thereafter, when a film version of Bridges was announced, many film critics anticipated the worst. Instead, The Bridges of Madison County, with co-star director Clint Eastwood and Meryl Streep, is winning, for the most part, rave reviews. Bridges' screenwriter Richard LaGravenese has received praise for his lean and subtle adaptation of the novel. His other screenplays include Oscar-nominated The Fisher King, The Ref, and Little Princess, and we're very pleased to have him here to talk about this movie and this screenplay this evening. Welcome.
Thank you.
It's great to have you here. You went to NYU Film School, yes?
No, I went to NYU Theater.
Theater?
Yeah, that was the mistake in that article in the Times.
Yeah, okay. So
yeah, I was a theater major.
The Times made a mistake.
Sorry.
And so you were a theater major.
Yeah.
Hoping to do what?
I grew up loving movies, but as I got older, I got very interested in theater, and I was in the experimental theater wing at NYU, and we were sort of trained to be all different things: actors and directors and choreographers, and just sort of theater artists. You know, we were doing sort of experimental theater in streets and barns and cafes and things like that.
What pulled you into screenwriting?
I was offered a job from a friend of mine who had set up a deal with a producer. He had an idea and he pitched it, and when the deal got sold, he asked me to come on board. He had seen me in a comedy act, and I had written the material for it, and wanted to know if I wanted to co-write it with him, and that was my first experience. And while I was doing that, I wrote Fisher King on my own in my spare time.
Yeah. From original material? I mean, just your
Fisher King, yes, original material. Yeah.
And then you just went and sold it to some producer in Hollywood?
Well, about 2 years later. Yeah, it took about a year and a half. And ironically, I finished it dead in the middle of the worst writer's Guild strike, and I couldn't sell it because no one could read and no one could buy. Yeah. So I had to wait a couple of months. But then after that, it was sold.
And what got you involved in this project?
I was called in by Kathy Kennedy and Steven Spielberg at the time, who I've worked with before and are friends of mine. And
they had bought before it was published.
Kathy bought this before it was published.
The screenwrites to it for $25,000 before a page had been sold.
That's right. That's right. So they brought me in, and I met with them and Warner Brothers, and they asked me if I wanted to take a crack at it because it was kind of stalled, the project. Yeah. And I told them how I would do it, and that's how it started.
Wasn't that easy, was it?
Well, actually, it wasn't that hard.
What did you say? I mean, you must have had some trepidation. I mean, here is it phenomenally successful.
I was a little worried. Yeah. I was and at the time the backlash was starting as well, so I was even more worried. But I weighed it because to me I had to see whether it was a temptation or a gift. Really, that's how I kind of look at things, and the glamour around it made me think, well, am I supposed to be doing my own work now? Is this a temptation? Am I being pulled by the glamour of this, or is it really something I should do?
And you'd finally decided
that it was something I should do.
Because?
Well, because I looked at the essence of it, and I tell this story a lot, but I spoke to my sister down in Florida.
This is a great story. Go ahead. And what'd she say?
I said, you know, she's been married for 25 years. She has 2 grown children, a boy and a girl, just like Francesca in the book. I said, Patty, did you read this book? She went, yes, it's my life. I said, what do you mean? She says, well, you get to a certain age, you're in the marriage for so many years, your children grow up, and you never think that feelings like this can happen to you again. And when she said that, I sort of understood what the appeal of the book was and what it was touching in especially many women in the country. And I thought, well, maybe I'm being a little bit of an artistic snob about this, that there is something wonderful. I also love love stories, and I love character pieces, and that was a great draw to this.
So you know that there's some essence here that's good, that's touching people's lives. You also know that critics have denounced, book critics have denounced the book and criticized. Meryl Streep hated it, as I understand. Yeah. So what's the task for you?
Well, you know, none of that. I mean, I didn't want to worry about. I mean, critics will like or dislike.
You didn't like it.
Well, I didn't get. I didn't. No, I didn't like the writing that much. You know, it wasn't my kind of book. But that's not to say it's bad or good. There's no point for me as another writer to denounce another writer's work. Okay, I mean, the point is, I wouldn't be sitting here if the man didn't write the book.
That's
so
right.
I'm nothing but grateful to Mr. Waller. But my task was to make it dramatically workable on screen, because what reads well in a book may not be actable, may not be performable, and there wasn't a lot of conflict in the book.
You did a lot of things, though. First of all, you humanized Kincaid.
Yes, I looked for a flaw to create.
And the flaw was?
Well, for me, it was this, that he loves being the citizen of the world and traveling all around, but that's not the end. There's a reason he's that way, and he's frightened of real intimacy in a way.
He doesn't know how to connect.
Yeah, there's something about real pain and real experience in a relationship that he sort of stays away from, and I sort of settled on that.
You told the story through her.
Yes, that was a major selling point when I said I would do it. I wanted to tell the story through her eyes. I wasn't as interested in that.
Why?
Because to me, that's why the book was popular. I mean, men were not making this book a bestseller, women were. It's because they saw themselves in that.
Your
Some
sister.
women, like, exactly. And it had to be her story. And it was her loneliness and her frustration and her sexuality that interested me as a character in a project.
It is said that Streep, who wasn't crazy about the book, and this is not news to anybody who knows what she said publicly even, loved the script. Because it said what to her? What did she say?
She just thought it was beautifully. Well, I'm going to.
That's all right. It's okay to tout your own horn because we're.
She just thought it was, beautifully written, and it made her cry. She said, and it spoke to her. You know, it said a lot of things that she connected with.
You added characters.
Yes.
Lucy, for one,
yes.
a member of the community
right.
who had taken another woman's husband
right.
and had been, in a sense, ostracized
right.
by the community.
Right.
Why was that necessary?
Because they talk about that they talk about the small-mindedness of the town and how that really influences her decision not to go with him in the end because her husband wouldn't be able to survive the talk. And I thought instead of talking about it, you really need to see it, and he needed to see it, what the experience would be, like the position he was putting her in. So I thought that would be more dramatically interesting. And then as I was writing it, the idea of the two women coming together made a lot of sense to me. I kind of liked that because they had something in common.
She was the first person that
would
Francesca
understand, and
ever,
someone she could feel the love for Robert without any guilt.
Yeah. The children and bringing them to tell the story after her death.
Right.
That's new.
That's new. That came out of meetings. I'm sorry, the meeting with Warner's. That was an idea that Stephen was really interested in for personal reasons, interested in exploring, and I totally agreed with him. And so I came up with those stories as to why she's telling the story to them and what effect it has on their lives, because they're the same age that she was when she experienced this. I thought that was an interesting parallel.
What's this story about, in your judgment, on film?
A lot of people ask me, why do they fall in love with each other? And for me, it's because, why does she fall in love with him? It's because she gets to be all of who she is. She gets to experience every feeling without judgment and every passion. And I think in a way it's talking about how in relationships loneliness is created sometimes when we don't allow people to be all that they are. We don't see them. We don't see them authentically. They're our wife or our husband or our children, and yet there's all this other stuff that we are as human beings underneath. And she gets to sort of blossom in front of this man and breathe. And I think that's why she falls in love with him. I don't know if that's answered your question, but that's what I.
This story is about.
It's about
her finding an
connecting
opportunity in 4 days
to be authentic with another man and to be
connect
herself.
with her dreams.
Yeah, and then there are a lot of other things about sacrifice, about giving up something, about the moral issue of following your passion or staying with your choices in life. I mean, there's all of that as well.
You think most couples walked out of the theater after seeing this film and said, "What would you have done, or what should you have done?"
Oh yeah, a lot of people do. A lot of people a lot of young women I know that talk to are angry with it because they don't understand why she didn't go because they live in a different time with a different set of values and nowadays there are many choices, but I know for my sister and her generation at that time especially it wasn't that easy a choice to make. You stayed with your family more.
She made that choice, and some have said that it is, in fact, a certain nobility about that choice, that it is saying that there is something important about the everydayness of life. While not passionate, while not caught up in terms of those things that had to do with her dreams,
Right.
those things that made her be authentic, those things that made her be more alive than she had been in
Right.
a long, long, long time. To experience that and feel that, and then to choose the ordinaries, and some sense the fear of what would happen to people she cared about.
That's right.
Who've done nothing to harm her.
Exactly. It's about responsibility for our choices. You know, we live in a society now that very much advocates you can really have everything you want and be damned at the consequences around it. And that's not how she was. That doesn't what...
One reviewer, and I think in the Chicago Tribune it was, that said, I don't know if you read this, said, this is a terrible film because somehow it promotes infidelity.
Oh.
You know, the notion that she would do this.
That's a moral judgment. I don't know infidelity. It's
Were
more
you
complex than that.
tempted to bring them together again or to do anything? Did this have to be one final choice in which...
I think you had to respect the bestseller.
Yeah.
You know, it would kind of been like changing the ending of Gone with the Wind.
It is also said that Eastwood said to you, you got to leave some things.
Yeah, he wanted
Waller
to put
said.
back a lot of mostly lines that he had, actually. That he wanted to put back. Yeah, like the line about certainty.
What is the line?
The line, this kind of certainty only comes once.
Certainly that I know this woman
Yes.
and I love this woman.
Right.
And she is the only woman.
The line about the dreams, the old dreams, the good dreams. Certain.
And he had,
touched
and that
on-
says something about his understanding of what was the popular appeal of the
Yeah,
book.
I thought it was very smart.
Yeah. Did you have some fantasy you'd written about this? I mean, what was your original first draft?
I had her go a little crazy. I was really getting
You were
into...
way off the end there, weren't you?
I was really into her being this lonely housewife and just going really crazy and frustrated at the fact that her children don't communicate with her anymore.
How could you do this?
I think I had her...
Somebody brought you to your senses.
I know. I think I had her stab her son once in a fantasy or something like that, or want to, or put a knife up to
Why
his
did
throat.
you ever concoct that?
Well, because sometimes mothers want to do that to their teenage sons who don't want to say what, you know, who are monosyllabic, who don't want to like have a conversation with their mothers. And you know, that touched me because I have a daughter now, and I can't imagine there's going to be a time when she's a teenager and talking to me isn't going to be that important to her. It must break your heart. It must break your heart, and I'm dreading that day. And that's what this woman was feeling.
When she doesn't want to talk to your daughter.
Yeah.
When she has a life outside.
When suddenly
and she's
doesn't matter what I think.
11 or 12 or
yeah,
13
when she doesn't
or
come
whatever
bursting
age
into
it
my
is.
office anymore to show me a tattoo or something. That's going to kill me. And that's how this woman felt, because she remembers them as children, and now they're separate people.
Were you on location?
No.
They took your script. By that time, it
Yeah.
had been hammered out.
There was no need, and you know, for me as a writer, I don't like being on a set unless I'm needed.
Yeah. Now, did
or
they
invited.
improvise beyond the script that you had left them?
It's pretty much there. I mean, there were a couple of things that they made. You know, they just expanded and made a little. You have to. I mean, when you act, you've got to take the words and make it your own, and then new ideas come that make it richer and give it more texture. So there are a couple of moments they did.
Eastwood added this authenticity of the voice, you know, a couple of times in the lines. What did Streep add?
Her performance. I mean, she just...
What's good about her performance in
Oh
your
my
judgment,
God,
having
it's
written
just
those
so...
lines?
It's just, she fills every moment with something. You know, every gesture, every look. You know, I remember when they were talking about, when Clint asked about her, what did I think about her for the part? I said, the reason I think she's amazing for this is because this movie is so much about two people drinking iced tea at a table. But she can take the gesture of pouring a glass of iced tea and fill it with anything you want, with humor, regret, longing, anger, rage, whatever. She just fills every moment. She's just a beautiful actress.
She was the first choice of Clint?
She must have been, because we talked about, when he came back onto the project, it was a Sunday.
Wait, he came on the project and left?
No, when he came on as director.
Right.
And I came back.
Bruce Birchford was going to direct it, and then he
For a while,
left. And
right.
Clint was going to be just the star.
Yes, exactly. And then when he came on and I met him for the first time, we were flying out to Iowa, and he was talking about actresses. And then 4 days later, Meryl was given the script and got the part. So she must have been.
What about him?
What about him? What?
Eastwood. What's he like?
Oh, he's.
How do you rate him as a director?
Oh, I think he's just I think he's an artist. I remember seeing it for the first time thinking, this is like a foreign film to me because of the pacing, because of the time he takes. It's not an American mentality. The way he lets the camera just sit there and let the performances unfold, I thought it was beautifully done.
Now that you see the film on screen, would you change anything? I mean, now that what would you change?
I'm learning the medium more and more. I mean, I'm still a novice at this, I think, and I still don't understand what a page means time-wise on a screen. I tend to overwrite. And originally, I think the movie was longer, and you had to cut. And if I had known how much time I had to tell the children's story, I would have told it more concisely.
Yeah, I think so.
And in a better way.
Yeah.
I would have made choices that were more succinct.
I'm surprised he didn't see that, the director.
I think when you're in it, you know, it's hard to know that until you have the whole film together and you realize it's 2.5 hours or 2 hours and 45 minutes, and then you start to cut down. But I think it's hard to tell.
Are you better having not read the book and enjoying the film?
I don't know. I don't know. It's hard to answer that because even if you haven't read the book, you know about it. It's such a public experience. So you'd come in with some kind of preconceived notion.
Waller had no part in this after. I mean, they bought his book for $25,000, and he went off and made all the money he's made in publishing, and I assume is a very happy writer writing
yeah, I
another
would
book
assume.
in
He seemed like a very
Iowa.
nice man. We met.
You met more than once?
No, just at the we met at the premiere.
Yeah. He was happy with the film?
I think so, yeah. I think so.
There was some sense that the film kept a distance from him.
Yeah.
Is that true? Don't know.
I don't know.
What's next for you?
I'm writing an original to direct. I haven't written an original since Fisher King, and I'm doing an original based on some Chekhov short stories that I found that I fell in love with. And I'm also doing a rewrite on a script I wrote a while ago that Barbara Streisand's making in the fall. Yeah, she's going to be in and direct.
And you're going to write the script in, or rewriting it for her?
Right, right.
Yeah. Have you worked with her before at all?
On this script about 3 years ago. It took a while to, you know, she had her concert to do, and a lot of things happened, but yeah.
Why do you want to direct?
Because I want the experience of creating an idea and going all the way through to the end. It's not that I want to stop just writing and working with other directors. I love collaboration, but I think I've got to experience what it's like to come up with an idea, see it all the way through to the end, and be responsible for it. I think I'll learn a lot from that.
Ever want to get back to theater?
Oh, I would love to write a play, and once we're in a financial position where I could do that, we will.
It's great to have you on. It's a terrific film, and,
Thank you very much.
Clearly a lot of people are giving credit beyond the director and the performance by Clint and Merrill to the screenplay that you can put together. It's great to have you here.
Thanks very much.
We thank you for joining us this evening. Look forward to seeing you next time. See you then.